Good afternoon. I'm happy to be talking after lunch and not before, but please note that I'm dealing with a serious cold, so this is not my normal voice. We have, as Yaki said, been hearing about Minerva quite a bit. It's come up in a number of panels. The question I want to start out with, and if anyone wants to add their answers to it, I'm happy to do it. If not, I'll speak. What would a college look like if you started from the beginning, right? If none of the things that you walked into a college that are there now, if you could say we're going to start from that Genesis moment, start from the beginning, what would it look like? What would that college experience look like? What would the faculty look like? What would the pedagogy look like? What would the curriculum look like? So in my view, and I think I can defend it, Minerva is the first startup university in the world. So we're 5 years old. We have our students who have been coming through for the past couple of years. We'll have our first graduating class in 2 years. Some people have heard about Minerva. I think the exciting part about Minerva that people know about is we have campuses all over the world. We have students living, and I'll talk more about that. That's what people know. What I'm going to talk about today primarily is academics. So what do we teach at Minerva? So again, we had the advantage of starting from the beginning. Nothing existed. What would you do? And as those of you who were here yesterday know that I was an associate dean at Harvard Law School. It's a 200-year-old law school. Nothing is new. Everything that I do, everything that I did there was based on what had happened 100 years before, 150 years before, 50 years before. But the thought of starting completely again at a university, think about, as a dean, it makes me very excited. That's why I joined Minerva. So academics. So here are our goals for our graduates. So before I talk about these goals, think for a second. I think everyone in the room went to university. What were the goals of your university for you as a graduate? Can anyone even think along those terms, that there were goals? The goal was get a job, spend 4 years there, maybe fulfill your requirements. That was the goal. So that's what a university can do. Maybe it has a mission statement. No one knows it. No one reads it except for the provost and the consultant that wrote it with the provost. We have goals. So we thought carefully from the beginning, what should the goals be for our graduates? So these are the goals. I won't talk too much about the particulars, but just the idea that you can have a university with goals is something to note in and of itself. So we focus on practical knowledge. We focus not on, and practical knowledge is not skills training. So we've heard a lot over the last 2 days about people developing skills. That's not what Minerva is about. Minerva is about developing fundamental habits of mind and ways of thinking. So again, I don't want to degrade in any way the importance of skills training. The question you have to ask yourself is at a college, is that what a college should teach you, is skills? Or should a college teach you not how to act in a particular situation, but how to decide how to act to begin with? That's our focus at Minerva. So I won't talk too much about our core competencies, but again, think about the possibility of what core competencies would be at the college that you went to. Again, I only have 4.5 minutes left. So we focus on habits of mind and foundational concepts. So every course that we have, and I'll show you what a course looks like in just a second, we have hashtags. So if you were going to design a university in the 21st century, you would use technology. So every course is recorded, every class is recorded, and the key concepts have hashtags. So in your 4th year, if a concept comes up again, you can look back and find out what that concept, how it was discussed in your 1st year. So every course is based on these foundational concepts and habits of mind. We can look at, again, you saw our goals and our core competencies, and these are our learning objectives. So again, think about what it's like to design a university from the beginning and how exciting that is. And in the 3 minutes left, I'll show you how we do it. So my profession is constitutional law. I'm a law professor. I could speak up here for an hour about how to impeach Donald Trump as president of the United States. For about the first 5 minutes, you would be interested. For the next 45 minutes, you might be a little interested. For the last 10 minutes, you would be asleep. What you would remember afterwards is there was a guy that stood up and talked about how to impeach Donald Trump. That's not learning. Again, it's a great way to teach, but it's a terrible way to learn. So we don't lecture at Minerva. Every one of our classes is very active and based on the science of learning. Our founding dean was a guy named Stephen Kosslin, who was Dean of Social Sciences at Harvard University. He is an educational psychologist. He designed our course, our way of thinking and our way of teaching. This is what our learning management system looks like. The professor is there, and these are all the students. So what we do in every class is we have completely active learning. There's no backseat, and if Jonathan Katzman were here, he would yell at me for saying that's too used slogan, but we have no backseat. One of the ways we do that is we ask questions all the time. Another way that we do that is with polls. So multiple times in every class, the students are asked polls. You can respond multiple times to these polls. And what the professor will do is call on a random student and ask them to defend their answer. You can't just vote, you have to defend your answer. So throughout the class, and I'll talk about a tool we have called Course Builder, students are broken up into groups. So this models what happens in work. So university doesn't usually do that. But what we do is if you're at a job, your boss would say, okay, work with 3 people and answer the question. So you go into a Google Doc, you see all the people in your group, and you work together, and then you present your results to the rest of the class. One of the other innovations we have is you'll notice this student is in red. That student has talked too much. The other students have not talked enough. So the professor sees that and says, I'll call on either a yellow student or a green student. And again, you don't have a choice. You're not asked for volunteers. You call on someone. And just be happy I'm not calling on people in the audience now. The professor also is told where they are in terms of how much they talk. If a professor talks for more than 4 minutes in a row, the professor has to stop talking. So the professor has the same thing. The idea is active learning. So the science of learning tells us that if you hear a concept, but you don't apply it, you don't remember it. All the students talk. All the students not only learn from the professor, but they learn from each other. Peer-to-peer instruction is very important, both for us, I think, in general as well. You'll see here Course Builder, so each course is broken up into very discrete pieces. The faculty member is walked through this by time. So most of us remember that at the end of every semester, the professor would say, listen, we got through 2/3 of the syllabus. That's not an option for Minerva. Also, this means that if you have 5 sections of the same class, every class will be in sync. Some won't fall behind and some won't be forward in front of them. This is what it looks like from the faculty perspective. We have no timed tests at Minerva. We've talked a lot in this 2 days about how difficult it is to have these big standardized tests and timed tests. We don't focus on memorization, we focus on mastery. So what the faculty member does is they grade every contribution that a student makes on a scale of 1 to 5, all through the class. The students get that feedback, and the faculty member doesn't have to worry about grading a bunch of papers at the end of the semester. This is the way that we grade, is continuous assessment. Students, even if they're in the same place, are not in the same classroom. We don't want students to sit together in class. We want them to sit individually, because that student is meeting one-to-one with the professor. That student knows in their mind, in her mind, that she's looking at the professor and her peers. So no classrooms. Even if you're in the same building, don't sit in the same room. We want you to feel individual. How do we measure results? And I'm already over time, so I'll skip over this. But again, very quickly, we have rubrics in every class. You see every class is designed the same way. We get surveys from the students, and we have employer feedback. We are a brand new university. We focus very much on outcomes. We don't have 100 years of alumni. We focus significantly on where students get internships. So you see here that where our students just in our first year got internships, and there are another 50 institutions that did the same thing. Again, this is a picture of the most common airplane routes in the world. Unfortunately, I'm on almost all of those every week. Our main campus is in San Francisco. Our students spend the first year in San Francisco. They move to Berlin and then to Buenos Aires. So 1 year in San Francisco, semester in Berlin, Buenos Aires, Seoul, Hyderabad, Taipei, London. That's where our students go. So again, to look at that real quick, all of our students go all over the world because we believe that global citizenship is one important part of what Minerva does. I think I'm over time, so I won't ask questions, but I'm happy to talk to people afterwards. Thank you very much.